No,
I reckon if you could get in the team's head right now, it'd be FaZe.
No, what you're hearing right now is they're battling off. It's Splyce and FaZe yelling at each other.
Oh, is it?
The FaZe guys are right here behind us.
Makalele should maybe beatbox over it.
Yeah,
and do that.
exactly.
So,
Splyce might win one battle.
Yeah. So, and this is the thing, like I think FaZe really need to take a long, hard look at the direction they're going in anyway. But I just think that their pedigree, their overall skill ceiling, everything points to them doing well. Interesting statistic the other day. Splyce threw the fewest number of flashbangs of any team. To an average of 2.27 per round.
Didn't have a whole lot of rounds to throw them.
Yeah, didn't have a whole lot of rounds.
Breaking records.
But the reason that I think that's important is I criticised them at the American Minor and in the last one for saying that their executes are real sloppy. They don't seem to flash for each other. They try to rely on these dry peaks, and against big teams with big aim stars, you get punished. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
Duncan, we got the vetoes and the picks going. Why don't you walk us through these?
I mean, the two obvious bans, FaZe doesn't play Cobblestone and Overpass, but the reason why they saved doing the Cash ban is because Cash was the map that the Splyce guys were able to beat. I think it was CLG on at the major qualifier, so they probably just want to get that in the equation. And yesterday, obviously, FaZe had a difficult time when they were playing on Cash, so they know themselves against Team Liquid. They thought maybe were exploited there, so add the factors together. They don't want to play it overall. Then we end up with a scenario where this could have been Dust 2 or Inferno. I think Dust 2 is probably a better chance for the guys from Splyce. I think Inferno is going to be a bit harder, especially because the core of this team back when it was G2, I mean, Inferno was a pretty good map for them. They were pretty good overall. I mean, I gave you the serious analysis before, Scott. Now we'll have the jokes, okay? So Makalele's mom said that he's her king, okay? The thing is, you don't have to be a king to win. You just got to get the gamers together. And it doesn't matter if you're going through a bad phase, because against a team like Splyce, it's just not in their DNA. They've got to change their DNA for Flaren. They didn't even have the camera on me the whole time I was doing that. I have the camera on some random person who's in the game. Brilliant. He is
playing in the major.
He is a person who is in the game. Is this Makalele?
So we had
brilliant. Yeah.
So we had 5 overtimes, and now you've just set the record for most tons in one sentence.
I know.
That was amazing.
You thought about that one.
How does it feel to know that the apex of your career is you're turning into a freak from League of Legends? It's
oh no, that's fighting words.
Okay.
All right.
He'll get me back.
Let's rein her in.
They're not going to pay me the same as Freak. Oh my goodness! I would have never done the event if I'd known it was like $300 for the whole thing.
Okay, so now we know it's Inferno. Start with you, Robin. Thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, like Thorn was saying, it's probably it benefits FaZe for sure. More versatile team in general. Played together for a longer period of time. Also brought in Robin now, which is an old 1.6 player from SK. Actually, Splyce have an old 1.6 player as well, GRT. I don't know if so they do have some like experience within the team as well, which is kind of weird looking into the game yesterday versus Fnatic, where you see these mistakes anyway. So that's obviously up to him to correct it. As for Splyce, they just have to. They're actually starting CT, which I think is beneficial for them. I think that even if FaZe ends up on a bad start, they can still come back. Whereas for Splyce, I just don't see that happening. Still see that I still see FaZe winning this one.
Yeah, and I saw Splyce play on Inferno not that long before this tournament. I can't remember who their opponents was. I think it might have been Selfless. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, not relevant really. It wasn't a map they looked particularly good on. And Professor Chaos, who's a player I'm not particularly sold on anyway, was doing this thing where he kept buying the Mag 7 and playing in apartments. And I criticised him for it on Twitter because he literally bought this gun every round. Like even when he had loads of money in the bank, he was still buying this Mag 7 and playing apartments. And he was saying, "Well, I just want to help with the economy." That's what I did. And I'm thinking, that's real nice here. Maybe help with a scoreboard, mate.
Yeah.
So I think they've got some issues there. I think they lack a bit of pedigree. I think they've got a very decent core 3 by NA standards, but just nothing compared to the star power of FaZe. If FaZe lose this one, as I said, it's an absolute disgrace. So I've got to go with FaZe.
Yeah, and talking to the FaZe guys earlier today, Makalele in particular, they're loving their new organization. As a lot of people know, they didn't
I love money as well, Scoots.
They didn't necessarily have the same love for their old organization. So they did boot camp in North America. And they had a good, he said it was good, so they don't have a jet lag issue. They don't have all those other things. A
little bit of preparation on that boot camp, though. So just talk the tail of the tape on this one, because obviously I get all the insider info. Is they did it in New York, and of course all the teams are based out on the other coast, so they were playing with dodgy ping.
Yeah, because FaZe.
I don't know if people know this. America's a pretty big country.
Yeah.
So that actually was perhaps a little bit of poor preparation in that sense. It wasn't optimal. Let's put it that way. So all the talk about the boot camp, yeah, it's great, but it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, because most teams like to play on Central or West Coast.
Well, Central is still okay.
Central works better.
I mean, if you're on the West Coast, you play Central. If you play on, it's essentially the same ping, 50-60. Obviously, we do have some teams from some Central as well. But like Richard is saying, most of the teams have the boot camp's houses over on the West Coast.
On the West Coast side. So back to you, Duncan. Like keys of victory for both teams. Obviously, phases to lose, but like what does Splyce have to do to kind of to stop them?
I mean, they've mentioned Arya. He's like a player who has to play very well, I think. And Davey, obviously, someone who has been like one of the better players and one of the players who actually, his name was roughly in the mix for some of those teams that call TSM-type squads. But the big thing for me is it's going to be hard to out-frag FaZe. I think even with some of their players in the slump, they've got a high pedigree of player for the last sort of year or so. So I think they've just got too much firepower here.
Okay, and same thing, Robin. Final thoughts for you, and then you, Richard.
Yeah, same thing I touched upon a little bit. But yeah, Splyce just have to start off good here. And Davey and Arya needs to be on point. And on top of that, you need to have these FaZe players not on point. And we're talking Rain. Jacob did not show up almost at all yesterday, but Rain did. Michael had been also in a slump a little bit. Fox, since you do have the dual op setup there with Michael and Fox, especially on a map like Inferno, I do see him picking up the op. But yeah, Splyce just have to be on point here.
FaZe for days, baby.
FaZe for days.
FaZe, yeah.
FaZe up, as they say, right? All right, that's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you very much for listening to this segment. We're going to get ready to go to the casters. We're going to see Inferno for the very first time this tournament as